What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. That's HAWG Sports.com. We're going to talk Razorback football, basketball, baseball today. Also going to dive into this coaching search, of course. We're doing it all on Hog Sports Live. So before we jump into things real quick, I want to go ahead and encourage people to start asking questions. We're going to bring Danny West in a little bit to answer some of your recruiting questions. We'll talk a little bit of the coaching search. Obviously, we run a subscription service, so we'll talk about some of the stuff. We're not going to divulge everything that we're giving away over at HawgSports.com. By the way, it's April 1st. This is not a joke. We're offering this month of April right now. You can sign up and get it for $1 at HawgSports.com. You can sign up right now and get it for $1. There's no promo code or anything needed. Just sign up and get the deal. Also, if you wanted to, you could also have the option of signing up for a year and getting 30% off. I want to tell everybody where you can listen to us. Obviously, Facebook Live. This will be available on Apple Podcasts. It'll be available on Stitcher, Spotify. Of course, you can go to HawgSports.com and check it out. It'll be on YouTube as well. So just a few thoughts on the coaching search. Obviously, things are coming out today with Kelvin Sampson not being the guy. And I'm just going to say this. If you'd been on Hog Sports all last week, you would have known this is probably coming. And it seemed like everybody out there had, this is the guy, this is where it's going. And I felt like I was the only person pumping the brakes. I almost felt worried that I was the only person pumping the brakes on the Kelvin Sampson stuff. But lo and behold, here we are. Now, there was a report out there that said there was no contact between Arkansas and Kelvin Sampson. And again, what I was saying before, the first rule of college coaching searches is there is no offer until an offer is accepted. And the second rule is really there's no contact. It's always a third party. It's a little bit misunderstood how search firms and things like that work. That's an intermediary to gauge interest. That's how you talk without talking. It's a person to talk to, from their group to their group. And but as this thing has progressed, it just, it started out saying 60-40, he stays at Houston, and then a little more and a little more. Then I got some word from some people up here in Arkansas that it just, that wasn't what happened. And now the way I think this thing is going to break down eventually, I think so Hunter is keeping things very close to his chest on this, and people aren't getting too good a read on it. I think that what ends up happening is when this story breaks, and we'll guide it through you as much as you can at Hog Sports, but when this thing breaks, I think it'll come from the school from which the coach is coming from, okay, or ESPN or something, because, the university will contact ESPN to let them have a heads up. So that's where I could be wrong. I thought that with Chad Morris too, and we ended up breaking the Chad Morris hire, but that's kind of where I think things will go with that. But it doesn't look like Kelvin Sampson's going to be the guy for you. So we'll bring up Danny West here in a minute. Again, go ahead and get your questions in, and for Danny and anything else you had, we'll jump right into here. Again, I want to thank everybody for joining. If you like this kind of content, please throw us that thumbs up. That means a lot in terms of getting our reach out there. Subscribe to this page if you haven't. If you're on listening on podcasts, throw us 5 stars. Subscribe to the page. Like, share, follow, comment, of course. All right, let's see what we've got here. Colton J. Davidson says, is Steve Alford really in the mix? Any news on Thad Matta? Alford, I will say this. Alford reached out to Arkansas. That happened. Whether or not Arkansas is interested, I don't believe so, but Alford did absolutely reach out to Arkansas. Austin Gibson says, love the coverage, Trey and Danny. I would love for anybody out there to also tell your friends, tell other people where you think the best Razorback coverage is, where you get the best insider information on recruiting in the Razorbacks. Tell your friends. Have we been in contact with Buzz? Again, I'm not going to comment too much on the coaching search other than what I want to give out there, but I will say, Hunter, I don't have direct knowledge of that if they have been in contact with Buzz. I think that he's a guy that's obviously going to be in the mix. Everybody seems to like the guy, but really it's the only guy that Texas A&M is talking about. You almost get the feeling that if he does leave Virginia Tech, it'll be for Texas A&M, but we'll see. Arkansas is going to pay for this coach if they want to. And another reason I don't think it's going to come out really from Arkansas is because Hunter Yurachek has the full support, just like he had the full support to make the decision on Mike Anderson. He has the full support to make this hire, okay? and they're willing to spend up to $4 million on this deal. Okay, so what that tells me is he doesn't have to go running back and forth to the board of trustees to ask for, hey, I need this much money. We can get this guy. We need this much money, and then that's where leaks start happening after that. So that makes me think that it's going to be Hunter and just a couple people that are going to know what's going on. Have I heard anything on Bill Self? Just rumors of him possibly going to the NBA. Going to be Bill Self. Heard it here. I don't know about that. There's been people talking about Chris Beard also. I just don't know about that either. I mean, some great points have been made to me. Just how many Final Four coaches leave a Power 5 school for another Power 5 school the next year? Doesn't really happen. Love these little ditties with T-Bitty. Appreciate that, Brad. Chad Everett says, good afternoon from cold and windy South Georgia. Look forward to the show. Appreciate you, Chad. Blake says, when can we expect the news to break? I think that probably sometime this week. I mean, Texas A&M has had the job open longer than Arkansas has. Nothing is broken over there. So, I don't know. I think probably this week. That's just kind of the timetable on how these things tend to go. Unless it's somebody that's in the Final Four, which I don't think it's Beard. So, I don't know. Ricky Jolly says, should have kept Mike. Good man, good coach. Who's on the short list for coach? I don't know if they should have kept Mike. I mean, really, to be honest, I kind of went back and forth on it. But to be, I just feel like everybody was anxious for change, and I'm not so sure that Mike was going to get things done. I mean, I don't know. He just didn't seem prepared for next year to take this thing to the next level. Terry Roy says his agent put that out. Not necessarily, Terry. Not necessarily on that. And I think one reason my sources were different from everybody else is because my sources were coming out of Houston. I think most people were getting their stuff from up in northwest Arkansas. So Gruden's a lock. Red tie. Nate Davis says, always great to see you updating. Thanks for keeping us in the loop. Woo Pig Sui from the beaches of West Coast, on the West Coast. Appreciate you, Nate Davis. Chris Morris, ETA. So Morris was just named – he was just named Alpha Dog at the Under Armour Nike. Chris Morris, offensive lineman out of Missouri, out of Memphis, that Arkansas has been after pretty heavily. So let's see. How about Steve Alford can recruit? I know that he's reached out. Okay. Anyone here? Corliss Williamson, I heard that name pushed out there. Greg Marshall's been pushed out there. I think it could be something that surprises us. What's up, Jim Enos? At what point does Luke Matheson name enter the coaching search? Don't be shy, Biddy. He's on my hot board. Full disclosure. No. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring Danny West in here. Let's get Danny's graphic up. Danny West coming to join us. Oops, that's not Danny West. There's Danny West.
What's up?
What's up, Danny? How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Trying to stay busy.
Who's going to be Arkansas's next coach? I told everybody you'd have an answer.
I was thinking Luke Matheson.
Yeah, that seems to be a popular opinion. Jim Enos has the scoop. You heard it from Jim Enos first.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, man, I don't know, Trey. Until today, what you put out, I don't know how much you've revealed. I haven't been really watching your show here, so I want to be careful. But I felt for the last week, probably Kelvin Sampson. It just made the most sense, and now suddenly I don't feel that way. I can tell you who I would like, if I was Arkansas. Thad Matta obviously makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at his resume. I actually like the Nevada coach, Musselman.
Yeah, Musselman's been out there. Yeah. Thad Matta's an interesting one. If Thad Matta's healthy, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, he's been out of coaching for 2 years. He's only 51 years old. So that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you haven't been reading the updates on HawgSports.com that I've been posting about Kelvin Sampson all week. If you thought it was going to be Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah, I just thought it would eventually work its way back around. You know what I mean?
Now, to be fair, I never said that it wasn't going to be him.
You never shut the door.
Until today.
Shut the door. That's right.
Just saying that it was trending. It was trending against it being him.
Right.
Yeah.
What we got?
We got a few questions.
Talk today?
Yeah, we got a few questions up here. Let's See, somebody wanted to know about Chris Morris. I have to find it, but somebody wanted to know about Chris. Oh, is Austin Nichols wanted to know about Chris Morris and his ETA, who was just named Alpha Dog at the Atlanta Under Armour.
Sure. Yeah, he showed out down there this weekend. Yeah, I was just texting with Chris a little while ago. He actually told me something, not to get off topic here, but he told me, I was asking him, we were just kind of shooting the bull, and I asked him how his spring break was. And apparently at Freedom Prep in Memphis, they don't get a spring break. I mean, nobody cares about that except me, but I wouldn't go to a school that didn't have a spring break. That's just me. But, yeah, I was talking to Chris, and he told me he will be up. He's trying to come up this weekend for the spring game. We'll see if that happens. If not, I would expect him to come up relatively soon. This is a guy that he's visited Arkansas more than he has any other school. So you're in really good shape there. It's not a hard trip for him. I think he's been here 4 or 5 times now. And so still in good shape there. They'll get him back up here in the next few weeks would be my guess.
It's a problem with America, Danny. Everybody wants a break. Everybody wants some time off. If you look at some country, some Asian countries, they will have they go to school so much longer. They will have gone to school the equivalent of 4 more years than students in Arkansas. And we wonder why we're backed up in education. Everybody wants a break.
On your political rant, let's get to recruiting.
It's true. Just speaking the truth. Robert Cherry, is that my Robert Cherry? Robert Cherry, is there any chance we look at Patino? That's a lot of Patino stuff. He's in litigation right now. I mean,
yeah, I don't see that one, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that one.
That would sock me.
A lot of Bill Self stuff. Here, you know what's interesting, Danny? The other day I posted something because there are coaches out there that are making upwards of $4 million a year, $5 million, even $7 million when you talk about Calipari. And I posted a poll to see for Arkansas fans, because I do think that Arkansas fans are hungry and want to take this next step and want to go out and get the coach that's going to take them there. And I think that Arkansas has the resources to get to the next level when you talk about fan support, the money they're willing to pay. I mentioned $4 million earlier. And all of those things, facilities and that type of stuff. Even Sports Illustrated ranked Arkansas the second best opening right now behind UCLA. So I just feel like they can go out and get a big time coach. And I'm not sure where I was even going with that, Danny. But
well, we started with Bill Self. My question to you is: are you talking about a Bill Self type guy?
No, I'm not. People are talking about that.
Sure.
What I'm saying is, I posted a poll on Twitter asking fans if you're willing to pay that extra money to show up and drive from. I pointed to West Memphis because I used to know a guy whose dad came from West Memphis for every single game when I was in college. Came from West Memphis for every single basketball game, and I know that those people are out there and they're hungry and they want to support this program, but you're going to have to pay the $105 for the upper deck nosebleed seats that you had at Kansas game with your wife that time. Arkansas's upper deck seats aren't $105. So I was asking people that, and there were so many people that are like, I would have to see some success first, So I don't know that Arkansas fans as a whole are ready to pay quite the price to get a big-time coach in here and then immediately support him. I think that there will be an initial rush, but I didn't like the replies that I saw from everybody on Twitter. It felt very, 50-50 in that regard.
Yeah, I could see that. Even going to a game at Bud Walton, at times it feels like, and I don't want to make the fans mad here, but at times it has felt like they kind of wait for the team to give them a reason to get fired up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when Lou Holtz first took over at South Carolina, that place was packed. They went like 0-11 and just packed every single weekend. Always has been that way. No matter how bad Carolina was in football, they were always, 85,000 every Saturday. And I've always respected that. And, I'm with you on that. My uncle from Rising, when, it's a 4-hour trip. He used to make that midweek game. On a Tuesday night, they'd be playing some no-name school in basketball, and he would make that trip up and back in one day. That's just – You've got to have that type of support if you want to be a big dog. You got to get back to that. Got to.
Eric Elrod says paying the basketball coach more than the football coach. Has that ever happened? Now, I'm not saying it's going to be $4 million. I'm just saying they've been approved to pay upwards of if it's the right guy. But I believe Nolan made more than Houston did back in the day early. And then here's the deal also. You have to consider Chad Morris, and this is going to be hilarious because when this happens, everybody's going to be like, he hadn't even done anything. But after this year, Chad Morris will get an extension because that's customary. It'll be for, I think Brett went from $3 million to 4.2, if I'm not mistaken. And Chad started at 3.5, I think. And so he'll go up to, I don't know, 4 point something. He'll go up.
Yeah.
It'll go up. So it'll eventually take care of itself. But Chad Morris will get a contract extension after this year. And the reason every team does that, they keep a certain once you start getting inside of 3 years, then they extend you. That's just the way it goes. And I don't think a lot of people understand how that actually works, but it's done throughout college football and basketball. Where's Catalina these days, says Todd Bennett. Coach Catalina over at Arkansas State. I don't know. Catalina's got to be 60-something, I guess. Scott Fletcher says, any chance we get buzz if Texas A&M hires Beard? I don't know that Beard is. Do you think Beard's going anywhere, Danny? A Final Four coach? You think he's just going to change right after going to the Final Four?
I still think no, I don't. To answer your question, I think Texas holds on to Shaka Smart. I think Shaka goes back next year and has another average, not an above average season anyway. And I think they probably pull the trigger there. And then that's when we see Chris Beard take over at Texas. That would be my guess. From a distance, I don't know that for sure, but that's just kind of the way I see it.
Barry McBroom wants to know about, he says, NIT coach, Wichita. He wants to know about Greg Marshall, and I think Greg Marshall is definitely somebody to consider. And it's amazing some of the comments I've seen on Greg Marshall. Like, I know he did good, in the past, but he hasn't done anything, this year and stuff. It's like, I remember when Gary Patterson, he was coming off his worst year forever. I think the first year they moved to the Big 12, and everybody's like, do not want Gary Patterson. I'm just like, that guy's done so much with what he has. But Wichita State was a 1 seed. They went 35-1. Their first loss one season was in the NCAA tournament. They went to the Final Four 1 year. I think they've been doing Elite Eight. He's done big things for what Winthrop is and what Wichita State is and where they were when he took over. Greg Marshall, I think, would be a home run type of guy. Thad Matta would be. Buzz Williams would be. There's a lot of guys out there.
Yeah. What I've always thought about Greg Marshall is that he's kind of the reason maybe why he's turned down some of those jobs is that maybe he knew at some point Bill Self something's going to happen, whether it's NBA. And right now we're seeing a lot of talk, and I know some people in Kansas. I can't confirm it, but there is some talk that Chicago Bulls job really might be his. Bill Self I'm talking about. So, hey, maybe Greg Marshall, maybe that's finally the one. If that job ever does open up, it'd be an easy transition for him. Stay in state. Obviously, the recruiting territory stays the same, but on a much bigger scale for him. So maybe that would make sense. We're projecting now quite a bit.
Yeah, we are. And, I think that's really where we are with a lot of things right now with the basketball coaching search. I've said before, I don't know if you were on here when I was saying before, but I think this thing is going to come out of wherever the coach is coming from ultimately when it does break. Ashley Nelson says, nice setup and ticker. Looks good. Appreciate that, Ashley. We put a lot into this new setup here. We wanted to have the best one out there, so I think we've accomplished that in terms of the look of the thing. We get a better looking guy on screen. I'm talking about you, Danny. All right, let's see. Steve Henderson says he needs some help moving boxes if you have some time. Steve, where is he moving to? Out in the East Coast, right? Hendo? Yeah.
I'm not sure where he's going.
Edward Bernard Williams says Thad Matta. I think Thad Matta would make a lot of sense. In Thad Matta's in terms of his buyout, it says that he has a equal paying, similarly paying opportunities, whether it's TV or coaching. So he does have to, I guess, put himself out there, I guess. I don't know. His situation's interesting. He had the botched back surgery. It's caused some issues with his right leg. And basically they've kind of struggled with it, I guess.
They hung his name in the rafters there at Ohio State here 4 months ago. I think it was in January. But they did an interview with him, and I watched it this morning. And man, he strikes me as a guy who's really enjoying life right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's made quite a bit of money. I think he said his daughter is studying abroad, and he just plays golf and hangs out with his family and is able to do all the normal things that that you would hope to do as a coach but never get to. So
Right.
I don't know. It could be tough for him to jump back in it. What is he? He's low 50s, somewhere in there.
He's 51.
51, 50.
And
okay.
That's pretty young. And I think about things like that. Like, what if I won the lottery? What would I do? I would travel the world. I'd do all this stuff. But ultimately, Danny, I'd get tired of that. I would want to get back to work. I mean, I think about the times I go to vacation. And to me, ideally, when you're on vacation, you want to be ready to get out of vacation and get back to work. That's how you've done a good vacation. And I don't know. I think that he's 51, and again, we don't know what all his health stuff is. But at 51 years old, it does seem like there's a lot more to you before you're ready to hang everything up and retire. But again, it could just be too debilitating for him to want to deal with.
Yeah.
Hog Hunter says it's Duke's coach. Nope. Scott Fletcher says, when can we get some football commits from Memphis? Need to sign some studs this year. There's a lot of them out of Memphis, Danny.
Whole bunch of them. We just talked about Chris Morris. This past weekend, you had Jabari Small back on campus.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a story written on him on the site. May have to scroll down a little bit. I think that was Saturday, maybe Sunday we put that out. But Jabari's still feeling it, man. Arkansas has done a really good job with him. He's an interesting case to me because they started out recruiting him as a corner. If you'll remember, he came to camp and earned that offer as a defensive back last year, and then somewhere along the way they decided he's an all-purpose running back now. So that's kind of where they're recruiting him, which it may work out better for him, to be honest, if you're taking two running backs in this class. I mean, he would be a solid part of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get him and maybe a Isaiah Jacobs or a Savion Morrison, somebody like that, that'd be a powerful duo right there. So keep an eye on him. And then, yeah, there's quite a few over there. Devontae Nelson. We always talk about the two linebackers, Martavius French, and of course Bryson Eason, his teammate. All those guys are going to be coming back again soon. And still staying afloat, still in the ball game for a lot of Memphis guys.
Again, Danny West joining us here on HawgSports Live, and I want to remind everybody, if you haven't thrown that thumbs up, go ahead and do so. If you haven't subscribed to the page, do so. Like, share, follow, comment. Throw us 5 stars if you're listening on podcast. Still a lot of questions about Wyatt and Sampson, and a lot of people are bringing up the report out of Houston that Arkansas was never in the mix. And I'll say again, Arkansas did have a third-party feeler out there, but that was it. And if you'd been on HawgSports, you would have known that. You would have known that things weren't trending that way for some time now. Heard Corliss Williamson, how is our O-line looking after these injuries through spring practice? It's a good question. So on the offensive line, Colton Jackson's been banged up. Danny, I'm sure you've seen some of this. You were out at the scrimmage on Saturday. We haven't even really touched on the scrimmage, but they've shifted some things. I was surprised to see Shane Clennon back out there. He was in green on Friday, but I thought he was going to be out the entire spring. So Shane Clennon back there at right guard, although we've heard some good things about what Ryan Winkle has done at right guard in his absence, facing McTelvin Agim over and over again. I think the good thing is, you're talking about having some guys banged up. So right now, banged up, Colton Jackson, Austin Capps just came back from the flu. Who else is banged up? Adcock is out with a hip. Is that right? Hip. And Shane Clennon just came back from a foot. Noah Gatlin was out for a little while, but he's back. Silas Robinson was out Saturday, and he's been the backup center. And I think that's everybody. So, but the good thing is
it's a lot though.
It's a lot, but they have other guys. They have other guys who step up. When Noah Gatlin went down, they went to Dalton Wagner. You feel okay about Dalton Wagner. When Colton Jackson's gone down, they've gone to Myron Cunningham. They've been training Myron Cunningham at guard and tackle. So it's encouraging to see the numbers finally right where they can absorb some of these injuries. And, some of these guys may be playing if it was a season, and you got a game coming up, they might be playing, whereas it's spring football. So the smartest thing is to let them fully recover. And you got 4 more guys coming in. So that's it's nice to see them
I'll tell you what,
absorb some things.
there's two young guys in that group you mentioned there that really stand out to me. Of course, you go out there a lot more than I have this spring. I try to sit back and focus more on recruiting nowadays, but Noah Gatlin and Ryan Winkle, I really like the look of those two. And obviously we've heard the coaches talk about them recently and how well they're doing, and that doesn't surprise me. Every time I look up, I'm kind of drawn to those two. I think they've really, really got something to build around with those guys.
I really like Gatlin, what I've seen out of him. And I like what I've seen out of Dalton Wagner, too. I mean, the guy's so big. He looks like eventually one day he's going to come off the top rope on somebody. Like he's Undertaker's son or something like that. He looks like he's ready for the WWE. What was Mike making? Bobby Swain wants to know. He's 2.5, I believe, $2.5 million. Pay more than 4. I'm not sure what that says, Jeremy. You might want to rephrase there. There's a lot of half sentences. Rick Pitino or Billy Donovan. It was not going to be Billy Donovan. It's not going to be Rick Pitino. Catalina just moved to Fayetteville. I guess I have a connection. His son Taylor and I used to be in the same fraternity together. Ask about Catalina. I don't think that's happening, though. A lot of Thad Matta. Let's see. Go after Billy Donovan. Our entire inheritance. Why not Musselman? He's younger, turned Nevada around. Musselman's an interesting candidate, too. I actually got, on my coaching search hot board, I've got Musselman as the front page photo. And this is a guy that's obviously turned Nevada around and has some experience in the NBA. I like Musselman, and he's outspoken. You know, that guy will speak his mind, too.
He mixes it up a little bit. I've spent my morning checking in on some of these guys, watching YouTube interviews. And I mean, you can learn a lot about a guy in a 5-minute sit-down interview, one-on-one stuff. You know, he's got a pretty cool story to me. You know, with the NBA background, then he breaks in at college, and you've seen what he's done at Nevada. That's really impressive, man. So if not Arkansas, somebody's coming to get him very quickly. I promise you.
Yep. Well, let's see. What else we got here? I want to remind everybody right now you can sign up at HawgSports.com for $1. It's no joke. April 1st, sign up for HawgSports.com for $1. See what we're finding out about this coaching search and of course, recruiting with Danny West, everything that Danny brings to the table on recruiting. Interact with our message board. If you haven't thrown the thumbs up, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up now. You can check this out. Obviously, you're on Facebook Live. You're watching this live right now. It'll be on YouTube later, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're not listening on podcast, throw us 5 stars. If you listen here, give us that thumbs up. And be sure to share the video. I think we've pretty much covered everything, Danny. There's a lot of interesting comments going on right now, but I think we've pretty much covered everything. Hit on recruiting, hit on a little bit of spring football. Now, just to go over what's going to happen coming up here, you've got the spring game coming up on Saturday. It's at 3 o'clock. You got 2 more practices on Tuesday and Thursday. They'll hold 1 more the week after that. And that's pretty much where we are with football, basketball. Everything's about this coaching search. Everything's about the coaching search. Recruiting, there's going to be a lot of visitors coming up. Danny will have a whole lot more of that on HawgSports.com. So, Danny, we're going to go ahead and wrap it. Anything else you want to say to the masses out there before we close this thing down?
Hang in there, boys and girls. You'll get a coach eventually. In the meantime, go check out my latest notebook. I just brought some insight on 3 guys that I think are trending in Arkansas's favor. That big red board's coming out very soon. But these are 3 that I wanted to talk about in depth a little bit. So be sure to check that on the site.
Okay. Thank you, Danny West. So I want to thank Danny for joining us here. I want to thank all of you guys for joining in, guys and gals for joining in and participating in the show. And let's wrap it up. So I want to thank you for joining. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.